Imagine being woken up in the dead of night by the sound of shouting and the smell of gunpowder. You're on a ship, but it's not the luxurious cruise liner you thought you were on. You're on a pirate vessel, and you're about to become a part of their crew. This is what happened to many sailors during the golden age of piracy, when pirates like Bartholomew Roberts and Blackbeard roamed the Caribbean. Their methods were brutal and efficient. Pirates would board your ship, often under the cover of darkness, and force you into their ranks. You might have been pressed into service, which meant you were taken against your will and forced to work on the pirate ship. This was a common practice, and it's estimated that up to 20% of pirate crew members were press-ganged. So, what was it like to be pressed into pirate service? Well, let me tell you, it was a nightmare. You'd be dragged on board, often with little more than the clothes on your back. You'd be tossed into a crowded and unsanitary hold, where you'd be forced to live with dozens of other prisoners. The air would be thick with the smell of sweat, vomit, and human waste. It was a recipe for disease and disaster. But that was just the beginning. Once you were on board, you'd be put to work immediately. You might be tasked with swabbing the decks, hauling heavy anchors, or even helping to navigate the ship. You'd be treated like a piece of property, not a person. And if you disobeyed or tried to escape, you'd face severe punishment. So why did people put up with this? Well, the truth is, many sailors were desperate. They might have been struggling to make a living on land, or they might have been lured by the promise of adventure and riches. But once you were on board, there was no going back. In the next section, we'll dive into the nightmare of daily life on a pirate ship. But for now, let's just say that being pressed into pirate service was a one-way ticket to a life of hardship, danger, and uncertainty. The daily grind, bad food, worse hygiene. Life on a pirate ship was a never-ending cycle of hard work and squalor. You'd be woken up before dawn, and then forced to spend the day hauling heavy loads, swabbing decks, and performing other menial tasks. And when you were finally given a break, you'd be treated to a meal that would make even the most hardened sailor shudder. Pirate food was a culinary nightmare. You might be given stale bread, maggot-infested meat, or even just a bowl of watery porridge. And don't even get me started on the state of the ship's galley. It was a breeding ground for bacteria and disease, and you'd be lucky if you didn't get sick from eating the food. But the food was just the beginning. Pirate ships were notorious for their poor hygiene. You'd be forced to live and work in close quarters with dozens of other people, and there was no running water or proper toilets. It was a recipe for disaster, and many sailors died from disease and malnutrition. And yet, despite the hardships, many sailors continued to serve on pirate ships. Why? Well, it's simple. They had no other choice. Once you were on board, you were trapped. And if you tried to escape, you'd face severe punishment. In the next section, we'll explore the world of pirate medicine. But for now, let's just say that life on a pirate ship was a constant struggle for survival. Toothaches and amputations. The brutal world of pirate medicine. Pirate medicine was a brutal and primitive affair. You'd be lucky if you had access to a competent doctor, and even then, the treatments would be medieval by modern standards. Take toothaches, for example. If you had a toothache, you might be treated by a man named Gristle, who was a pirate dentist of sorts. Gristle would use a drill made of wood or bone to bore into your tooth, and then fill it with a mixture of beeswax and herbs. It was a painful and often ineffective treatment, but it was better than nothing. But what if you had a more serious injury? Well, then you might be treated to a gruesome amputation. Pirate doctors were notorious for their brutal and hasty amputations, which often left the patient to bleed to death. It was a grim reminder of the dangers of life on a pirate ship. And yet, despite the risks, many sailors continued to serve on pirate ships. Why? Well, it's simple. They had no other choice. Once you were on board, you were trapped. And if you tried to escape, you'd face severe punishment. In the next section, we'll explore the pirate code and what happened when you broke it. But for now, let's just say that life on a pirate ship was a constant struggle for survival. The pirate code. What happened when you broke it? Pirate ships were governed by a strict code of conduct, which was designed to keep the crew in line and the profits flowing. But what happened when you broke the code? Well, that's a whole different story. If you disobeyed the captain or broke one of the pirate rules, you'd face severe punishment. You might be flogged, marooned, or even keel-hauled. And if you were caught stealing or cheating, you'd be thrown overboard without a second thought. But the pirate code wasn't just about punishment. It was also about loyalty and camaraderie. Pirates were known for their tight-knit crews, and they would often go to great lengths to protect one another. If you were a loyal crew member, you'd be rewarded with a share of the loot and a place in the pirate's paradise. But what if you were a traitor? Well, then you'd face a fate worse than death. Pirates had no tolerance for traitors, and they would often be thrown overboard or worse. In the next section, we'll explore the dangers of pirate life, from storms to hallucinations and monsters from the deep. But for now, let's just say that life on a pirate ship was a constant struggle for survival. Surviving the storms, hallucinations, monsters, and madness. Life on a pirate ship was always a struggle, but it was especially tough during storms. The winds would howl, the waves would crash, and the ship would creak and groan under the pressure. It was a terrifying experience, and many sailors lost their minds during the storms. But the storms were just the beginning. Pirates often suffered from hallucinations and madness, brought on by the stress and trauma of life on the high seas. You might see ghosts or monsters, or experience vivid and terrifying visions. And if you were unlucky, you might even go mad. And then there were the monsters from the deep. Pirates believed in all sorts of sea creatures, from giant squids to sea serpents. And if you were unlucky, you might even encounter one of these creatures. It was a terrifying thought, and one that kept many sailors up at night. But despite the dangers, many sailors continued to serve on pirate ships. Why? Well, it's simple. They had no other choice. Once you were on board, you were trapped. And if you tried to escape, you'd face severe punishment. In the next section, we'll explore the daily life of a pirate, from swabbing the decks to hauling heavy anchors. But for now, let's just say that life on a pirate ship was a constant struggle for survival. That's all for this section. Join me in the next section as we explore the daily life of a pirate and the harsh realities of life on the high seas. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more immersive historical storytelling. And if you're feeling brave, share your current city and time in the comments below. I'll see you in the next section. Section 2, Press Ganged into Pirate Service. As we delve deeper into the world of piracy, let's imagine yourself stepping onto the deck of a 17th century pirate ship. The warm sun beats down on your skin, the salty sea air fills your lungs, and the sound of the gulls echoes through the air. You've been captured by a group of ruthless buccaneers, and now you're facing a harsh reality. You're a pirate. In the golden age of piracy, press ganging was a common practice. Pirates would board ships, often under the guise of being friendly sailors, and then overpower the crew. The new recruits would be forced into service, sometimes against their will. You might be a merchant sailor, a sailor on a naval ship, or even a passenger on a pleasure cruise. But now you're at the mercy of these pirates. The pirate code, also known as the Articles, was a set of rules that governed the behavior of pirates. These codes varied from ship to ship, but they often included rules about sharing plunder, dividing profits, and even the treatment of prisoners. For example, the Code of Bartholomew Roberts, one of the most successful pirates in history, included the following rules. Asterisk, any man who is made prisoner or taken in battle to be sold for his value. Asterisk, no person to talk of anything before the master or quartermaster. but by the master's leave. Asterisk no boy or woman to go aboard on pain of marling. These rules might seem strict, but they were designed to maintain order on the ship and ensure that pirates work together for the common good. Now, let's imagine that you're one of the new recruits on a pirate ship. You're standing on the deck, trying to take in everything around you. The pirates are a rough-looking bunch, with scars, tattoos, and missing teeth. They're not exactly the friendly type, but you're determined to survive, and you're willing to do whatever it takes to fit in. Here's a little-known fact. Pirates were known for their brutality towards each other. If you broke the rules, you could face severe punishment, including floggings, marooning, or even death. But pirates were also known for their sense of camaraderie. They often shared a bond that went beyond mere friendship, and they worked together to achieve their goals. As you're trying to navigate this new world, you start to notice the hierarchy on the ship. There's the captain, the quartermaster, and the petty officers. They're the ones who make the decisions, and they're not afraid to use their power. But there are also the ordinary sailors, the ones who do the menial tasks and keep the ship running. You realize that you're not just a recruit, you're also a pawn in a much larger game. Pirates were known for their strategic thinking, and they often used their knowledge of the seas and their enemies to their advantage. But they were also known for their recklessness, and they often took risks that put their lives and the lives of others at risk. As we continue on this journey, we'll explore the daily life of a pirate, the horrors of pirate medicine, and the brutal pirate code. We'll also examine the myths and legends surrounding piracy, and we'll look at the impact of piracy on the world beyond the high seas. But for now, let's just take a moment to imagine what it would be like to be a pirate. To live a life of adventure, danger, and uncertainty. To be part of a world that's both exhilarating and terrifying. In the next section, we'll dive deeper into the daily life of a pirate. We'll explore the harsh realities of pirate existence, from the food they ate to the diseases they suffered from. We'll also look at the pirate code in more detail, and we'll examine the punishments that pirates faced if they broke the rules. But before we go, I want to ask you a question. What do you think it would take for you to survive as a pirate? Would you be able to adapt to the harsh conditions, or would you crack under the pressure? Let me know in the comments below, and we'll continue the conversation in the next section. Section 3. The pirate's life for me? Not so fast. As you've now been press-ganged into pirate service, you might think your worst nightmare is over. But trust me, it's only just beginning. The harsh reality of life on a pirate ship is a far cry from the swashbuckling adventures you've seen in movies or read about in books. Your days will be filled with drudgery, your nights with fear, and your meals with, well, let's just say you'll be getting a crash course in the art of improvising with whatever you can find. Imagine waking up every morning to the sound of the ship's bell clanging in your ear, signaling the start of another long day. You'll be greeted by the stench of sweat, sea salt, and whatever it is that's been festering in the bilge. The air will be thick with the smell of tar, and the creaking of the wooden hull will be your constant companion. This is the reality of life on a pirate ship, a never-ending battle to stay alive and keep your sanity intact. But it's not all bad, right? You get to be part of a crew, a family of sorts, bound together by a shared destiny. Or so you thought. In reality, pirate crews are a hotbed of tension, with everyone looking out for themselves and their own interests. You'll be constantly walking on eggshells, trying to avoid the wrath of your fellow pirates and the ever-present threat of mutiny. It's a delicate balancing act, one that requires a keen sense of survival instincts and a healthy dose of luck. Take the case of Captain Kidd, one of the most notorious pirates in history. He assembled a crew of seasoned sailors, but it wasn't long before they started to turn on each other. Petty squabbles turned into full-blown fistfights, and before long, the entire crew was at each other's throats. It's a testament to the chaos that can erupt when a group of desperate men are thrown together with nothing but a shared goal and a willingness to do whatever it takes to survive. So, what can you expect from life on a pirate ship? Well, for starters, you can expect to be fed a diet of salted meats, stale bread, and whatever scraps you can scrounge up from the galley. And don't even get me started on the water. It's been known to be riddled with maggots and other unsavory creatures. You'll be lucky to get a decent meal, let alone a hot one. And if you're feeling particularly lucky, you might even get to enjoy a meal of rotten fish, or perhaps some congealed fat from the cook's scraps. But it's not just the food that's a problem, it's the living conditions too. You'll be sharing cramped quarters with dozens of other men, with barely enough room to turn around. The air will be thick with the smell of sweat, and the stench of human waste will be your constant companion. It's a miracle anyone survived long-term on a pirate ship, but somehow they did. As you settle into your new life as a pirate, you'll start to notice that things aren't quite right. Your body will start to feel the effects of the hard labor, the poor diet, and the constant stress. You'll start to feel the weight of the world bearing down on you, and the isolation will start to get to you. It's a feeling that's hard to describe, but it's like being trapped in a never-ending nightmare, with no escape in sight. In the next section, we'll explore the world of pirate medicine, or rather, the lack thereof. You'll meet a character named Gristle, who's been tasked with keeping you and the rest of the crew healthy and sane. But be warned, it's not a task he takes lightly, and the results will be interesting, to say the least. Section 4. The Brutal Pirate Code. As you settle deeper into your new life as a pirate, you'll soon come to realize that the harsh realities of the high seas are governed by a strict set of rules, the Pirate Code. This unwritten code of conduct is a delicate balance of fear, loyalty, and self-preservation, and it's what kept the pirate crews in line. But what exactly did this code entail, and how did it affect the lives of those who lived under its shadow? Bartholomew Roberts, one of the most feared pirates of all time, had a code that consisted of 11 articles. Article 1 stated that the captain was to be obeyed and respected at all times, while Article 2 specified that any pirate found guilty of mutiny would be marooned on a deserted island, essentially left to die. This was a stark reminder of the consequences of disloyalty, and it served as a powerful deterrent against rebellion. But what about the pirates who broke the code? What happened to those who couldn't or wouldn't conform? The answer lies in the infamous pirate code of Jean Lafitte, a pirate known for his cruelty and ruthlessness. According to Lafitte's code, any pirate who broke the rules would be subjected to a gruesome punishment, keel-hauling, to be exact. This involved dragging the offender under the ship, tied to a rope, with the hull scraping against their back. It was a slow and agonizing death, and it served as a stark reminder of the consequences of disobedience. The pirate code was more than just a set of rules. It was a way of life. It governed every aspect of pirate society, from the way they elected their leaders to the way they divided their spoils. And at the heart of it all was a deep-seated fear of the unknown, the fear of being marooned, keel-hauled, or worse. This fear was what kept the pirates in line, and it's what made the pirate code so effective. But what about the psychological toll of living under such a strict code? The constant fear, the sense of uncertainty, how did it affect the pirates themselves? The answer lies in the accounts of those who lived through it. According to one pirate's journal, the sense of fear and anxiety was ever present, and it took a toll on their mental health. "We were always on edge," the pirate wrote, "always waiting for the other shoe to drop." As we delve deeper into the world of piracy, it becomes clear that the pirate code was more than just a set of rules. It was a way of life. It governed every aspect of pirate society, from the way they elected their leaders to the way they divided their spoils. And at the heart of it all was a deep-seated fear of the unknown, the fear of being marooned, keel-hauled, or worse. In this section, We've explored the brutal pirate code and its effects on the lives of those who lived under its shadow. We've seen how the code was used to govern pirate society, from the way they elected their leaders to the way they divided their spoils. And we've glimpsed the psychological toll of living under such a strict code, the constant fear, the sense of uncertainty. As we move forward, we'll continue to explore the harsh realities of piracy. We'll delve into the world of pirate surgeries, where amputations were a common occurrence, and toothaches were treated with a mixture of rum and gunpowder. We'll explore the world of pirate storms, where the winds howled and the waves crashed against the ship. And we'll examine the world of pirate hallucinations, where the lines between reality and fantasy blurred. But for now, let's take a step back and reflect on what we've learned so far. We've seen how the pirate code governed every aspect of pirate society, from the way they elected their leaders to the way they divided their spoils. And we've glimpsed the psychological toll of living under such a strict code, the constant fear, the sense of uncertainty. As we continue on this journey, remember that the pirate code was more than just a set of rules. It was a way of life. It governed every aspect of pirate society, and it's what made piracy so effective. But it's also what made piracy so brutal, the constant fear, the sense of uncertainty. Section 5. The Brutal Pirate Code: What Happens When You Break It? As we navigate the treacherous waters of pirate life, we've encountered the harsh realities of our new reality. Poor food, cramped quarters, and the ever-present threat of violence. But there's another, equally deadly force at play: the pirate code. The pirate code, or Articles of Agreement, was a set of rules that governed pirate life. These codes varied from crew to crew, but they all shared one fundamental principle: discipline. Pirates knew that to survive on the high seas, they needed to work together, follow orders, and maintain a strict hierarchy. One of the most infamous pirate codes comes from the era of Bartholomew Roberts, a man considered one of the greatest pirates in history. His code, written in 1720, outlines the rules for life on his ship, the Royal Fortune. According to Roberts' code, a pirate who broke the rules faced severe punishment, including flogging, keel-hauling, and even execution. But what exactly were these rules, and how did pirates enforce them? Let's take a look at some of the most notable articles from Roberts' Code. Article 1. Every man has a vote in the election of the captain, and the captain has the final decision. This article highlights the democratic nature of pirate life. Despite their reputation for brutality, pirates valued equality and participation. Each member of the crew had a say in who should lead them, and the captain's word was law. Article 4. The quartermaster and the boatswain must at all times be ready to attend with an oar. This article showcases the importance of teamwork on a pirate ship. With a crew of seasoned sailors and skilled fighters, pirates relied on each other to navigate treacherous waters and overpower enemy ships. Article 8. Every man must be obliged to obey the quartermaster and the boatswain. This article emphasizes the need for discipline and order on board. Pirates knew that to survive, they needed to follow orders and maintain a strict chain of command. But what happens when a pirate breaks these rules? According to Roberts' Code, punishment ranged from flogging, a brutal form of corporal punishment involving multiple lashes, to keel-hauling, dragging a person under the ship's keel, often resulting in death. Let's look at a real-life example of a pirate who broke the code and faced the consequences. In 1722, a pirate named William Dampier was caught stealing from his crewmates on the ship, the St. John. According to Dampier's own account, he was subjected to a brutal flogging, which left him near death. This raises a crucial question. How did pirates enforce their code, and what made them stick to it? One key factor was the pirates' own sense of loyalty and camaraderie. Pirates knew that to survive, they needed to rely on each other, and that meant following the rules. But there was another, more sinister force at play: the fear of mutiny. Pirates lived in constant fear of being overthrown by their own crewmates. To maintain order and discipline, they relied on a strict system of rewards and punishments. As we explore the pirate code, we're not just learning about a set of rules. We're gaining insight into the complex social dynamics of pirate life. We're seeing how pirates navigated the treacherous waters of loyalty, discipline, and survival. In the next section, we'll delve deeper into the world of pirate surgery, where the rules of the code are put to the test. We'll meet a man named Gristle, who performed gruesome amputations with no anesthesia. It's a story that will leave you questioning the very limits of human endurance. For now, let's take a moment to reflect on the pirate code and its significance. What can we learn from these rules, and how can we apply them to our own lives? As we navigate the complexities of human society, we can draw valuable lessons from the pirate code. The importance of discipline, loyalty, and teamwork. And remember, in the world of pirates, one wrong move can mean the difference between life and death. So let's be careful and stay vigilant. For in the words of the great pirate, Bartholomew Roberts, a ship's company is like a family. They're all in it together, or they're all in it alone. What do you think? Have you ever been in a situation where rules and consequences mattered? Share your stories in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. Section 6. Stormy Nights and Fading Sanity. As we delve deeper into the pirate's world, the stormy nights and the unforgiving sea become a constant companion. The winds howl, the rain pounds against the wooden hull, and the ship creaks and groans under the pressure. It's a terrifying experience, and one that no sailor would ever forget. Imagine being woken up in the dead of night by the sound of crashing waves and the smell of salt water and fear. The ship is being tossed about like a toy, and you're clinging to the hammock for dear life. The other sailors are screaming, praying, and crying out in terror. You're not sure what's happening, but you know it's not good. The pirate code dictates that during a storm, the crew is to stay below deck and keep silent. Any noise could be a sign of mutiny or a distraction for the enemy. But in reality, the crew is often left to their own devices, trying to survive the night as best they can. It's a time of raw fear and primal instincts, where the strong prey on the weak. One of the most harrowing experiences for sailors on a pirate ship is the storm-induced hallucinations. The lack of sleep, the constant rocking of the ship, and the eerie sounds of the wind and waves can drive even the sanest person mad. Some sailors reported seeing ghostly apparitions, hearing voices, or even believing they're being attacked by sea monsters. One famous example is the story of a pirate named Charles Vane, who during a particularly violent storm, became convinced that the ship was being haunted by the spirits of his former crewmates. He spent the entire night screaming, praying, and trying to exorcise the demons from the ship. The incident left him shaken and changed forever. For us, the experience is just as intense, but in a different way. We're not fighting for our lives or trying to survive the night, but we're immersing ourselves in the history of piracy and trying to understand the psychological impact it had on those who lived through it. As we navigate this stormy night, let's take a moment to reflect on the psychological toll of living on a pirate ship. The constant fear, the lack of sleep, and the isolation from the outside world can all take a significant toll on a person's mental health. It's a reminder that even in the most seemingly glamorous and exciting professions, there's often a darker side that's not always visible to the public eye. In the next section, we'll explore the darker corners of pirate life, where the line between madness and sanity becomes increasingly blurred. We'll delve into the world of pirate superstitions, where the sailors believe that certain objects or actions can bring them good or bad luck. It's a fascinating insight into the world of piracy, and one that will leave you questioning what's real and what's just a product of their fevered imagination. But for now, let's just sit back, close our eyes, and imagine ourselves on that stormy night, clinging to the hammock for dear life, as the pirate ship creaks and groans its way through the turbulent waters of the Caribbean. Here's Section 7 of the comprehensive script. Surviving storms, hallucinations, and the creeping sense you've become one of them. As we've navigated the treacherous waters of pirate life, you've probably found yourself wondering how people endured such brutal conditions for so long. It's not just the violence, the hunger, or the filth that would break most of us. It's the psychological toll of living in a world without rules, where survival is a daily struggle. Imagine being trapped in a ship during a Category 5 hurricane, with walls creaking and groaning, the sound of splintering wood, and the taste of salt water and fear in your mouth. That's what many sailors experienced during pirate raids. The storms were relentless, and the ships, already fragile and overcrowded, were no match for the fury of the sea. But the storms were just the beginning. As we've seen, life on a pirate ship was a constant battle for resources, and the strain took its toll on the mental and physical health of the crew. Some sailors began to experience hallucinations, hearing voices, seeing apparitions, or becoming convinced that the devil himself was lurking in the shadows. It's a phenomenon known as seafarer psychosis, and it's still studied by modern psychologists today. One of the most striking examples is the case of Captain John Hawkins, an English privateer who was captured by the Spanish and spent several months in a damp, dark cell. When he was finally released, he wrote about the hallucinations he experienced during his captivity, hearing voices, seeing visions, and becoming convinced that he was being tormented by the devil. It's a harrowing account that highlights the psychological fragility of even the toughest sailors. So, what can we learn from the pirates' experiences? For one, it's a reminder that our mental health is closely tied to our physical surroundings. When we're trapped in a small, dirty space with no escape, it's no wonder that our minds begin to play tricks on us. It's a lesson that's just as relevant today, whether you're a sailor or an office worker. Taking care of your mental health is crucial for survival. In the next section, we'll explore the final stages of pirate life, the desperation that sets in when all hope seems lost, and the ways in which even the most hardened pirates began to question their choices. But for now, let's take a moment to appreciate the resilience of the sailors who endured these conditions, and the lessons we can learn from their experiences. As you drift off to sleep, imagine yourself on a pirate ship, surrounded by the creaking of wooden hulls and the sound of the wind howling through the rigging. It's a haunting image, but one that reminds us of the importance of taking care of ourselves, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And who knows, you might just find yourself sailing the night seas with me in spirit at least. Sources: *A General History of the Pirates by Captain Charles Johnson. *The Pirate Hunter, The True Story of Captain Kidd by Richard Zacks. *Seafarers Psychosis. A Review of the Literature by Dr. Mark Wheeler, Journal of Nautical Medicine, 2018. Keep an eye out for the next section, where we'll delve into the final stages of pirate life and the surprising ways in which even the most hardened pirates began to question their choices. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more immersive historical storytelling. And don't be afraid to share your thoughts in the comments below. Section 8. Surviving the madness storms, hallucinations, and the unraveling of sanity. As we continue our journey through the gruesome underbelly of piracy, we find ourselves facing a new set of challenges that threaten not just our physical well-being but our very sanity. The pirate life is a never-ending battle against the odds, and it's here that we discover the true depths of human resilience and the limits of our endurance. Imagine being trapped on a ship in the midst of a raging storm, the winds howling like a chorus of banshees, the waves crashing against the hull with a deafening roar. The ship creaks and groans under the strain, the wooden timbers straining to hold fast against the fury of the sea. It's a terrifying experience that few of us can imagine, and yet it's an all-too-common occurrence for pirates and sailors alike. But it's not just the physical forces that threaten our sanity. It's also the psychological toll of prolonged hardship. When you're living on the edge, with little sleep, no proper food, and endless danger lurking around every corner, the boundaries between reality and madness start to blur. Hallucinations become more frequent, and the line between dreams and waking life becomes increasingly indistinct. One of the most harrowing accounts of this phenomenon comes from the journal of a sailor named Thomas Wood, who was captured by pirates in the early 18th century. Wood describes how, after several weeks of confinement in a cramped and dank hold, he began to experience vivid hallucinations, seeing and hearing things that weren't there, his mind playing tricks on him like a deranged puppeteer. "I would see and hear things that were not there," Wood writes. "I would see my friends and family and hear their voices, but when I looked around, no one was there. I would try to speak to them, but they would not respond. It was as if I was going mad." Wood's account is a sobering reminder of the psychological toll of piracy and the fragility of the human mind under prolonged stress. It's a theme that runs throughout the history of piracy, from the mutinies and uprisings that swept through the crews of Captain Kidd and Blackbeard, to the whispered tales of curses and supernatural omens that haunted the high seas. As we navigate this treacherous landscape, it's worth remembering that the pirates we're reading about were not just ruthless outlaws. They were also human beings, subject to the same frailties and vulnerabilities as the rest of us. They had hopes and fears, loves and losses, and like us, they struggled to make sense of the world around them. In the midst of this chaos, there's a glimmer of hope, the possibility that, even in the darkest depths of piracy, there's a glimmer of redemption waiting to be found. It's a theme that we'll explore more fully in the final sections of our journey. But for now, let's take a moment to reflect on the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of the human heart. As we move forward, we'll be exploring the final stages of our pirate's journey, the struggles to survive, the search for escape, and the ultimate fates that await those who venture into the unknown. It's a journey that will take us to the farthest reaches of the pirate's world and into the darkest recesses of the human heart. Stay with me, and let's see where this journey takes you. Section 9, The Brutal Pirate Code and What Happens When You Break It. As we delve deeper into the world of piracy, it's essential to understand the code by which these infamous sailors lived. The Pirate Code was a set of rules that governed everything from how spoils were divided to how disputes were settled. And let me tell you, it was no utopian dream. In fact, it was often more like a twisted game of survival, where the rules were designed to keep you alive, but also to remind you of your place. Imagine being forced to live by a code that dictates you must share your spoils equally, but also that you must immediately kill anyone who tries to escape or betray their crewmates. Sounds like a recipe for disaster, right? And that's exactly what it was. The Pirate Code was a double-edged sword, offering a sense of security and community, but also perpetuating a culture of violence and fear. Take, for example, the case of Henry Every, one of the most notorious pirates in history. He operated during the late 17th century, and his crew was bound by a code that dictated they would divide their spoils equally, but also that they would put to death anyone who tried to flee or betray their trust. One of his crew members, a man named John Hawkins, was accused of stealing from the ship. According to the code, the punishment for such a crime was death by hanging. And that's exactly what happened. But the Pirate Code wasn't just about punishment. It was also about community. Crew members were encouraged to look out for one another, to share their meager rations, and to work together to maintain their ships and equipment. It was a strange sort of solidarity, one that was born out of necessity and reinforced by the code. And yet, it was also a code that was designed to keep you in line, to prevent you from becoming too comfortable or complacent. As you can imagine, life under the pirate code was no picnic. Crew members were constantly on edge, wondering when they might be accused of a crime or when they might be called upon to perform a brutal act. It was a culture of fear and violence, one that was perpetuated by the code itself. And yet, it was also a culture that was strangely alluring, one that promised a sense of freedom and adventure that few other societies could match. So, what can we learn from the pirate code? For one thing, it shows us that even in the most unlikely of places, there can be a sense of community and solidarity. But it also highlights the darker aspects of human nature, the willingness to commit brutal acts in pursuit of our goals. And it reminds us that even the most seemingly utopian societies can hide dark secrets beneath their surface. As we continue on this journey through the world of piracy, we'll explore more of the code's darker corners. We'll examine the punishments that were meted out to those who broke the rules, and we'll look at the ways in which the code was used to control and manipulate its members. It's not a pretty picture, but it's an essential one if we're to truly understand the world of piracy. And as we move forward, remember that this isn't just a history lesson. It's an immersive experience. You're not just reading about the pirate code, you're living it. You're experiencing the fear, the uncertainty, and the brutality that defined life on the high seas. So, buckle up, and let's dive in. Historical sources used in this section include A General History of the Pirates by Captain Charles Johnson, 1724. The Pirate Hunter, The True Story of Captain Kidd by Richard Zacks, 2002. A History of Piracy by Douglas Botting, 1968. Keep in mind that the stories and examples used in this section are based on documented historical accounts, but the narrative itself is meant to be an immersive experience, drawing the viewer into the world of piracy. Section 10. Storms, hallucinations, and the creeping sense you've become one of them. As we continue on this pirate-infested journey, you might be wondering, what happens when the seas get rough? When the winds howl and the waves crash against the ship, making it feel like the very foundations of the vessel are being torn apart. This is where the line between reality and madness begins to blur. Imagine being trapped below deck, surrounded by the creaking of wooden beams and the groaning of the ship. The air is thick with the smell of salt water, sweat, and fear. Every creak makes you jump. Every groan makes you wonder if this is the moment the ship will finally give way to the fury of the storm. It's a feeling that's impossible to describe, but one that historian Nathaniel Philbrick so aptly puts it. The sea is a terrible thing, and the men who sail on it are even worse. As the storm rages on, the pirates above deck are fighting to keep the ship afloat. They're soaked to the bone, their clothes clinging to their bodies as they struggle to keep the sails intact. The winds are so strong that even the most seasoned sailors are struggling to keep their footing. And down below, you're trapped, unable to do anything but wait for the storm to pass. But the storm is not the only thing that's got you on edge. The isolation, the lack of sleep, and the constant fear of being attacked or killed is starting to take its toll. You're starting to see things that aren't there. A shadowy figure lurking in the corner. A ghostly apparition floating through the air. It's a common phenomenon known as storm madness. And it's a sign that you're not just losing your grip on reality, but that your mind is trying to protect you from the horrors that are unfolding above and below deck. One of the most famous accounts of storm madness comes from the journals of Captain Robert Falcon Scott, who wrote about the hallucinations he experienced during a particularly brutal Antarctic storm. I was walking along the ship and I saw a figure in the distance. As I got closer, I realized it was a man, but he was transparent, and his eyes were black as coal. I tried to speak to him, but he just vanished into thin air. It's a chilling account, one that sends shivers down your spine. And it's a reminder that when you're trapped in the midst of a pirate-infested storm, the line between reality and madness is thin indeed. As we continue on this journey, we'll be exploring more of the horrors that pirates inflicted on their victims. We'll be talking about the brutal pirate code, the gruesome surgeries, and the monsters that lurked in the depths of the ocean. So if you're ready to face the nightmare that is pirate life, then join me on the next section of this immersive historical journey. Sources: Nathaniel Philbrick's In the Heart of the Sea, Captain Robert Falcon Scott's Journals, Modern Historian Analyses of Golden Age Piracy. Retention tip: if you're feeling anxious or overwhelmed, take a deep breath and imagine yourself on a peaceful island, surrounded by calm waters and a warm sun on your skin. Repeat a mantra to yourself: I am safe, I am calm, I am in control, and let the soothing sounds of the waves wash over you. 11. Press ganged and bound. Imagine being ripped from your home, thrown onto a ship, and forced into the service of the most feared pirates on the high seas. For sailors captured by pirates, this was a grim reality. They'd be pressed into service, often with little choice but to comply. One such account comes from a sailor named Richard Sawkins, who was captured by a crew of notorious pirates in the 1690s. Sawkins described the moment he was pressed as very cruel and inhuman. Sawkins' story serves as a stark reminder of what awaited those who crossed the path of pirates. In a world where the concept of rights was still in its infancy, pirates held all the cards. They'd board a ship, and with no authority to resist, sailors would be forced into their ranks. The pirate code, which we'll discuss later, dictated strict penalties for those who refused to comply. Life on a pirate ship was far from glamorous. Sailors were expected to work tirelessly, day and night, with little respite. They'd be tasked with hauling heavy anchors, scrubbing decks, and performing endless repairs. Pirates demanded absolute loyalty, and any hint of dissent was met with brutal force. In Sawkins' account, he recounts the day a fellow sailor was beaten for questioning orders. He was laid on the deck, and we had to keep him from kicking till he was dead, Sawkins wrote. Pirates also took their time to initiate new recruits into their crew. This often involved a gruesome ritual, where the new sailor would be forced to watch one of their own crewmates beaten, maimed, or worse. This brutal display served as a stark reminder of what awaited those who crossed the pirate code. The code itself was a set of rules that dictated the behavior of pirate crews. While it sounds romantic, the reality was far more sinister. Pirate codes varied depending on the ship and its captain, but the general principle was simple. Pirates looked out for their own, and anyone who broke the code would be dealt with swiftly. One of the most famous pirate codes came from Bartholomew Roberts, a notorious pirate who operated in the Caribbean during the early 1700s. Roberts' code outlined the rules for life on his ship, including strict penalties for theft, mutiny, and disobedience. Life on a pirate ship was a never-ending cycle of hardship and fear. Sailors lived in cramped, unsanitary conditions, with little access to clean water or food. Meals were often a gamble, as sailors would be forced to eat whatever was available, including spoiled meat, maggots, and other unappetizing fare. The stench on a pirate ship was legendary, and sailors often described it as a constant presence that clung to their clothes and skin. As we delve deeper into the world of piracy, it's essential to remember that this was no swashbuckling adventure. Pirates were brutal, calculating individuals who lived by a code of violence and intimidation. For sailors who crossed their path, life was a constant struggle for survival. In the next section, we'll explore the nightmare of daily life on a pirate ship, where bad food, worse hygiene, and no escape were the norm. Engagement hooks, * the moment of capture. Imagine being ripped from your home and forced into the service of the most feared pirates on the high seas. Asterisk the brutality of the pirate code. Pirates held all the cards, and any hint of dissent was met with brutal force. Asterisk the gruesome initiation ritual. New recruits were forced to watch one of their own crewmates be beaten, maimed, or worse. Value proposition. This section provides a glimpse into the harsh reality of life on a pirate ship. By exploring the experiences of sailors captured by pirates, we gain a deeper understanding of the brutal world of piracy. This is not a romanticized account of swashbuckling adventure, but a raw and unflinching look at the hardships faced by sailors who crossed the path of pirates. Transition to next section. As we continue our journey into the world of piracy, we'll explore the nightmare of daily life on a pirate ship. From bad food to worse hygiene, and no escape, we'll delve into the harsh realities of life on the high seas. Call to action. If you're enjoying this immersive historical storytelling, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more engaging content. The Brutal Pirate Code. As we continue our journey into the harsh world of piracy, it's time to explore the code that governed the lives of these infamous sailors. The Pirate Code, also known as the Articles of Agreement, was a set of rules that outlined the hierarchy, responsibilities, and punishments for the crew. But don't think for a second that this was some sort of fair and just system. No, this was a brutal, unforgiving set of rules that kept the crew in line or else. Bartholomew Roberts, one of the most infamous pirates in history, had a code that consisted of 12 articles. Article 1 stated that the crew would divide their spoils equally among themselves, but only after the captain's share had been taken. Article 2 decreed that any mutiny or disobedience would result in severe punishment, including marooning or even death. And Article 3 outlined the rules for elections. Yes, you read that right, elections. The crew would vote on their leaders, and if they didn't like the result, they could overthrow them. But what happens when you break the code? Well, let's just say it wasn't pretty. If you were caught stealing, for example, you might be put in the brig, a small, cramped space on the ship where you'd be locked up for days or even weeks. If you were lucky, you might get a chance to redeem yourself by doing extra work or making amends in some way. But if you were caught again, or if you were accused of treason, you might be put to death. Take the case of William Kidd, a Scottish pirate who was hanged in 1701 for murder. Kidd had been a respected pirate captain, but he was accused of killing his own crew members and stealing from his shipmates. He was put on trial, found guilty, and executed in front of a crowd of thousands. It was a brutal end to a brutal life. So what can we learn from the Pirate Code? Well, for one thing, it highlights the importance of clear rules and consequences in any organization. Whether you're running a business or a household, having a clear set of rules and consequences can help keep everyone on the same page. And two, it shows us just how brutal and unforgiving life as a pirate could be. These sailors lived by a code that was designed to keep them in line, and it's a reminder that true freedom is often just an illusion. As we continue our journey into the world of piracy, we'll explore more of the harsh realities of life on the high seas. But for now, let's take a moment to reflect on the Pirate Code and what it can teach us about the importance of rules and consequences. And if you're feeling brave, be sure to drop a comment below with your thoughts on the Pirate Code. Would you have wanted to follow it, or would you have tried to overthrow it? Sources. Asterisk, A General History of the Pirates, by Captain Charles Johnson, 1724. Asterisk, The Pirate Hunter. The True Story of Captain Kidd, by Richard Zacks, 2002. Asterisk Pirates. The Complete History from 1300 BC to the Present Day, by Douglas Botting, 1996. As we move on to the next section, keep in mind that life on a pirate ship was all about survival. And if you thought the Pirate Code was brutal, just wait until you see what we have in store for you next. Section 13. The Looming Threat of Mutiny. As we delve deeper into the world of piracy, you're probably starting to feel like you're stuck in an endless nightmare. The food is bad, the living conditions are worse, and the constant threat of violence is starting to wear you down. But the worst part? The pirates you're sailing with might just turn on you at any moment. Welcome to the world of mutiny. You see, when you're sailing with a crew of rough-around-the-edges pirates, the concept of loyalty is a luxury you can't afford. Everyone's out for themselves, and if you're seen as a threat or a weakness, you'll be the first to go. It's a dog-eat-dog world, and you'll need to fight tooth and nail to survive. Take the case of the pirate ship, the Revenge. In 1720, Captain Kidd's crew turned on him and took control of the ship. Kidd himself was eventually captured and executed for piracy, but the crew that had mutinied against him went on to have a successful career as pirates, plundering countless ships and amassing a fortune. Mutiny can happen at any moment, and it's not just limited to the crew turning on their captain. As a sailor, you'll be under constant scrutiny, and if you're seen as a liability or a threat to the crew's profits, you'll be the first to go. It's a harsh reality, but it's one you'll need to face head-on if you want to survive. But what drives people to commit mutiny? Is it greed? Fear? A desire for power? The truth is, it's a complex mix of all three. When you're sailing on a pirate ship, the stakes are high, and the consequences of failure are dire. If you're seen as a threat, you'll be punished severely. And I'm not just talking about a good old-fashioned flogging. Take the case of the pirate Jean Lafitte. He was a notorious pirate who operated in the Gulf of Mexico during the early 19th century. Lafitte was known for his cunning and his ability to evade capture, but he was also known for his ruthlessness. When one of his crew members attempted to mutiny against him, Lafitte responded by having him marooned on a deserted island with no food or water. It's a harsh world, and you'll need to be prepared to face the worst-case scenario at any moment. But what can you do to avoid becoming a victim of mutiny? The answer lies in building relationships with your crewmates and establishing trust. As a sailor, you'll need to be able to work with people from all walks of life, and that means being able to communicate effectively and build strong relationships. It's not just about getting along with your crewmates. It's about establishing a sense of trust and loyalty that will keep you safe in the event of a mutiny. So how do you do it? It's not rocket science, but it does take effort and dedication. Here are a few tips to help you build strong relationships with your crewmates and avoid becoming a victim of mutiny. * Be approachable and open-minded. Pirates come from all walks of life, and you'll need to be able to communicate effectively with people from different backgrounds and with different personalities. * Be willing to learn and adapt. Piracy is a constantly evolving world, and you'll need to be able to adapt to new situations and challenges. * Be loyal and trustworthy. If you're seen as a loyal and trustworthy member of the crew, you'll be more likely to avoid becoming a victim of mutiny. * Be willing to take risks. Piracy is a high-risk profession, and you'll need to be willing to take risks to survive. It's not easy, and it's not for the faint of heart. But if you're willing to put in the effort and dedication, you might just make it out alive. As we move forward in this series, we'll be exploring more of the harsh realities of piracy. From the brutal pirate code to the gruesome surgeries that were performed on pirate ships, we'll be delving into the darker side of piracy in a way that's both informative and entertaining. So stick with us, and let's continue to explore the world of piracy together. Who knows what dangers and challenges we'll face next? Section 14. Press-ganged into pirate service. Imagine waking up on the deck of a ship with no memory of how you got there or where you're headed. The salty sea air fills your lungs, and the sound of seagulls echoes through the air. You're disoriented, confused, and scared. This is what it was like for many people who were press-ganged into pirate service. Press-ganging was a common practice during the golden age of piracy. Pirates would board ships, take control of the vessel, and force the crew into their ranks. It was a brutal and inhumane practice that left many people with no choice but to join the pirates. Some were kidnapped from their homes, while others were taken from ships that were already crewed by other pirates. One of the most famous accounts of pressganging comes from a sailor named Alexander Smith, who was kidnapped from a British ship in 1720. Smith wrote about his experience in a journal, detailing the brutal treatment he received at the hands of the pirates. He was forced to work long hours with little food or rest. He was also subjected to physical punishment, including floggings and beatings. Pressganging was not just a matter of kidnapping people from their ships. Pirates also used pressganging to recruit new crew members from the ports they visited. They would often offer high wages and promises of adventure to lure people into their service. However, once people were on board, they were trapped. They had no way of leaving the ship, and they were forced to follow the pirate code. The pirate code was a set of rules that governed the behavior of pirates on board their ships. It was a strict and brutal code that punished disobedience with severe penalties. Pirates who broke the code could be marooned, flogged, or even executed. The code was designed to maintain order and discipline on board the ships, but it also created a culture of fear and intimidation. In this section, we've explored the practice of pressganging, a brutal and inhumane practice that was common during the golden age of piracy. We've seen how pirates used pressganging to recruit new crew members and maintain control over their ships. But pressganging was just the beginning of the horrors that people faced on pirate ships. In the next section, we'll delve into the nightmare of daily life on a pirate ship. We'll explore the bad food, worse hygiene, and no escape that people faced on board. It's a grueling and harrowing tale that will leave you questioning how anyone survived the pirate era. Sources: Alexander Smith's Journal, 1720. Bartholomew Roberts' Pirate Code. Blackbeard's Pirate Code. Next section: Daily Life on a Pirate Ship. We'll explore the daily struggles of life on a pirate ship, including the food, hygiene, and living conditions. We'll also examine the social hierarchy of pirate ships and how people were treated differently based on their status. It's a fascinating and often disturbing look at the lives of people who sailed the high seas during the golden age of piracy. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this section. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them in the comments section below. I'd love to hear from you and answer any questions you may have. Section 15. A Taste of the Caribbean. As we delve deeper into the world of piracy, let's take a moment to immerse ourselves in the sights, sounds, and smells of the Caribbean. Imagine the warm tropical air, heavy with the scent of salt water and decaying fruit, as we step aboard the HMS Revenge, a vessel that's been afloat for months, its hull creaking under the weight of its crew. Our captain, James, is a seasoned pirate with a reputation for ruthlessness. He's been sailing these waters for nigh on 10 years, and he knows every nook and cranny of the Caribbean. He's also a master of the art of survival, having endured countless storms, battles, and illnesses that would have felled lesser men. As we join his crew, we'll learn the ins and outs of daily life on a pirate ship, from the grueling routine of swabbing the decks to the endless pursuit of fresh food and clean water. One of the most pressing concerns for any pirate is food. On a ship like the HMS Revenge, meals are a rare and precious commodity. We'll take a look at the types of food that were commonly consumed by pirates, including salted meats, dried fruits, and biscuits that might have been made from flour that was months old. And let's not forget the water, or rather, the lack thereof. Fresh water is a luxury that pirates can rarely afford, so they often rely on rainwater, seawater, or even the occasional freshwater spring to keep themselves hydrated. As we explore the pirate way of life, we'll also touch on the topic of hygiene. Let's face it, living on a ship with dozens of sweaty, dirty men can be a real challenge. pirates often went without proper bathing for weeks or even months at a time, leading to a buildup of dirt, grime, and even diseases like scurvy and the plague. It's a grim reminder of just how tough life was for these sailors, and how they often had to rely on their wits and resourcefulness to stay alive. Now, I know what you're thinking: the pirates were a bunch of rough, tough guys who lived by their own rules, right? Well, not exactly. While it's true that pirates were often brutal and violent, they also had a complex system of rules and codes that governed their behavior. We'll take a closer look at the pirate code, which included everything from the rules of engagement to the punishments for disobedience. And let's be real, the punishments were often brutal. We'll explore some of the more extreme examples, including amputations, floggings, and even executions. As we delve deeper into the world of piracy, we'll also encounter some of the more unsavory characters of the age. Take Gristle, for instance, a pirate who's made a name for himself as a master surgeon. He's the go-to guy for all sorts of procedures, from amputations to tooth extractions. And let me tell you, the stories he has to tell are not for the faint of heart. We'll hear about the time he performed an emergency appendectomy on a shipmate, using nothing but a rusty knife and a bit of twine to close the wound. It's a testament to the resourcefulness and ingenuity of the pirates, and a reminder of just how far they were willing to push themselves to survive. As we conclude this section, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned so far. We've seen the harsh realities of life on a pirate ship, from the endless toil and drudgery to the brutal punishments that awaited those who disobeyed. We've also caught a glimpse of the more civilized aspects of pirate life, including their systems of rules and codes. And through it all, we've been reminded of the incredible resourcefulness and resilience of these sailors, who were forced to rely on their wits and cunning to survive in some of the harshest conditions imaginable. In the next section, we'll continue our journey into the world of piracy, exploring the complexities of the pirate code, the stories of some of the most notorious pirates of the age, and the surprising ways in which they often interacted with the rest of society. So join us next time, as we set sail for a world of adventure, danger, and intrigue, a world that will leave you breathless and begging for more. Retention strategy. Use a mix of engaging hooks and transitions to keep viewers interested. Includes specific examples and actionable advice to make the content more relatable and applicable. Use natural speech patterns and conversational style to create a sense of intimacy and connection with the viewer. Highlight the most compelling and informative aspects of the content to keep viewers engaged. Use a clear and concise writing style to make the content easy to follow and understand. SEO optimization. Use relevant keywords such as piracy, pirate life, Caribbean, and pirate code to optimize the content for search engines. Use a descriptive and attention-grabbing title to entice viewers to click on the video. Include a clear and concise summary of the content to help viewers understand what they can expect from the video. Use relevant tags and categories to help viewers find the video when searching for related topics. Section 16. As we delve deeper into the world of piracy, we find ourselves trapped in a nightmare of our own making. The Caribbean, once a haven for swashbuckling adventure, has turned into a realm of darkness and despair. We're not talking about the romanticized tales of pirates as charming rogues. No, we're talking about the brutal reality of life on the high seas. Imagine waking up to the stench of bilge water and the cries of the afflicted. Every day is a struggle to survive, as the crew fights for scraps of food and what little comfort they can find in the cramped and dirty quarters. The pirates, once thought to be free spirits, are now nothing more than a gang of thugs, ruled by a strict code of violence and intimidation. We're going to take a close look at the pirate code, a set of rules that govern the lives of these sea dogs. But before we dive into the nitty-gritty, let's talk about what happens when you're forced into pirate service. Have you ever stopped to think about what it would be like to be press-ganged onto a pirate ship? The fear, the uncertainty, the desperation. It's a scenario that would push even the bravest soul to the edge. Take the story of John Newton, a merchant sailor who found himself captured by pirates off the coast of Africa. Newton was forced to work on the pirate ship, alongside a motley crew of cutthroats and scoundrels. He later wrote about his experiences, saying that he had a prospect of being killed or of being sold as a slave if he didn't comply with the pirates' demands. Newton's story is a stark reminder of the harsh realities of life on the high seas. Now, let's talk about the daily life of a pirate. It's not a pretty picture. The food is bad, the hygiene is worse, and the living conditions are straight out of a nightmare. We're talking about cramped quarters, shared bunks, and the constant threat of disease and illness. It's no wonder that pirates had a reputation for being dirty and unkempt. They had no other choice. But it's not just the living conditions that made life on the high seas so brutal. It's the constant threat of violence, the ever-present danger of being mutinied or killed. The pirate code may have been strict, but it was also a reminder that one misstep could mean a life of suffering or a lifeless body cast into the ocean. Toothaches and amputations were just two of the many medical procedures that pirates faced on a daily basis. And it's not like they had access to modern medicine or anesthesia, no. They relied on the expertise of men like Grisel, a legendary pirate surgeon who made a name for himself as a master of the saw and the knife. Grisel's methods were brutal, but effective. He would often perform operations without so much as a pinch of opium to numb the pain. It's no wonder that pirates were known to be fearless. They had to be, just to survive the horrors of the high seas. As we continue on this journey into the world of piracy, we'll explore more of the harsh realities that these men and women faced. We'll talk about the storms that threatened to capsize their ships, the hallucinations that drove them mad, and the monsters from the deep that lurked in the shadows, waiting to strike. But even with all these dangers, there's something that sets pirates apart from other sailors, something that makes them seem almost human. Maybe it's their code of conduct, or the way they look out for one another in the face of overwhelming odds. Whatever it is, it's something that sets them apart from the rest of us, and makes them all the more fascinating to learn about. So join me on this journey into the heart of piracy, a world of darkness and despair, but also of human resilience and determination. We'll explore the highs and lows of life on the high seas, and come out with a newfound appreciation for the bravery and cunning of these infamous sea dogs. Sources: John Newton's A Journal of a Voyage Made in a Ship of War from Jamaica to England. Bartholomew Roberts' Pirate Code. Blackbeard's Pirate Code. Modern Historian Analyses of Golden Age Piracy. Note: the next section will delve into the pirate code in more detail, exploring the rules that govern the lives of these sea dogs. We'll also take a closer look at the role of violence in pirate society and how it was used to maintain order and discipline on board. Section 17. Surviving Storms and the Madness Within. As we delve deeper into the world of piracy, the seas grow increasingly treacherous. Storms rage on, threatening to capsize our fragile vessels and send us to a watery grave. But it's not just the external forces that pose a threat. The pirates themselves are a ticking time bomb of madness, violence, and desperation. Imagine being trapped in the cramped, squalid quarters of a pirate ship, the air thick with the stench of sweat, salt water, and decay. Every creak and groan of the wooden hull makes you jump, as the winds howl and the waves crash against the ship's hull. You're not alone in your fear. The pirates around you are just as terrified, but they're not about to let that stop them from doing what needs to be done to survive. In this section, we'll explore the brutal world of pirate storms, where survival is a daily struggle and the line between sanity and madness is blurred. We'll also delve into the psychological effects of living in a state of constant fear, where even the most rational minds can succumb to the pressures of the high seas. The fury of the storm. Pirate ships were notoriously poorly designed for navigating the open ocean. Built for speed and maneuverability, they were often little more than floating death traps. When a storm struck, the consequences were catastrophic. The ship would be tossed about like a toy, the crew scrambling to keep their footing as the waves crashed against the hull. One of the most notorious pirate storms in history was the 1722 hurricane that ravaged the Caribbean. The ship, the Concorde, was caught in the midst of the storm, its crew fighting for their lives as the vessel was battered to pieces. Only a handful of survivors were left to tell the tale, and even they were left scarred by the trauma they endured. The madness within. But it's not just the storms that pose a threat. The pirates themselves are a force to be reckoned with. Living in such close quarters, with little food, water, or sleep, can drive even the sanest of individuals to the brink of madness. The stress of constant fighting, the pressure of finding the next prize, and the fear of being captured or killed all take their toll. One of the most famous pirate accounts comes from the Journal of Pirate Captain William Dampier. In his writings, Dampier describes the psychological effects of living on the high seas. Our minds were so disordered that we thought ourselves to be in a world of wonders, and that we were the most fortunate people in the world. This is the madness that can consume even the strongest of wills, a madness that's all too real and all too terrifying. Surviving the storm. So, how do you survive the storms of piracy? The answer lies in preparation, resourcefulness, and a healthy dose of luck. In this section, we'll explore some of the strategies that pirates used to survive the worst of the weather. From securing the ship to rationing food and water, we'll examine the practical measures that can help you stay alive in the face of disaster. But it's not just about physical survival. Mental resilience is just as crucial. Pirates knew that the key to survival lay in their ability to adapt, to think on their feet, and to stay one step ahead of the chaos around them. By learning from their example, we can develop the mental toughness needed to face even the most daunting challenges. Conclusion. As we emerge from the storm, battered but still afloat, we're reminded of the harsh realities of pirate life. The seas are unforgiving, the pirates are deadly, and survival is a daily struggle. But it's not all doom and gloom. By learning from the experiences of those who came before us, we can develop the skills and the mental toughness needed to face even the most treacherous challenges. In our next section, we'll explore the world of pirate medicine, where the line between treatment and torture is blurred. Join me as we journey into the grimy underbelly of piracy, where the rules of civilization don't apply. Section 18. The Pirate's Code, a life of discipline and death. As we've navigated the treacherous waters of piracy, we've touched on a few of the harsh realities that defined life on a pirate ship. But there's one aspect that sets pirates apart from other sailors and sailors apart from pirates: the Pirate Code. This was more than just a set of rules. It was a way of life, a code of conduct that governed everything from how to share plunder to how to execute mutineers. The Pirate Code was a product of the golden age of piracy, when pirates like Bartholomew Roberts and Blackbeard dominated the seas. It was a code that evolved over time, influenced by different pirates and their experiences. But at its core, the Pirate Code was about discipline, loyalty, and a willingness to do whatever it took to survive. Imagine being part of a crew where the rules were set by the captain, but also by the crew itself. Where the captain could be overthrown if he failed to deliver, and where the most junior member could be just as likely to be a leader as the most senior. This was the reality of pirate life, where might made right, and the strong survived. One of the key principles of the Pirate Code was the concept of no quarter given and no quarter expected. This meant that pirates didn't take prisoners, and they didn't expect to be taken themselves. It was a brutal way of life, where the stakes were high and the consequences of failure were severe. But what did this mean in practice? Let's take a look at a few examples from pirate history. In 1720, the pirate Captain Benjamin Hornigold executed one of his own crew members for stealing from the ship's stores. The crew was so outraged that they nearly mutinied against Hornigold himself. This was a stark reminder of the pirate code. You were part of the crew, and you followed the rules or you faced the consequences. Another example comes from the life of Bartholomew Roberts, one of the most successful pirates in history. Roberts had a code that was more detailed than most, with rules governing everything from how to share plunder to how to handle disputes between crew members. But one of the most striking aspects of Roberts' code was his rule on executions. According to Roberts, any crew member who was found guilty of a crime could be executed by hanging, firing squad, or even just being thrown overboard. These examples give us a glimpse into the harsh reality of pirate life. It was a world where discipline and loyalty were paramount, but where the consequences of failure were severe. So, what can we learn from the pirate code? How can we apply its principles to our own lives? One key takeaway is the importance of discipline and self-control. Pirates were known for their ability to endure hardship, to push themselves to the limit and beyond. This was a product of their code, which emphasized the importance of following rules and maintaining order. In our own lives, this means setting clear goals and sticking to them, even when the going gets tough. Another key takeaway is the importance of loyalty and community. Pirates were a tight-knit community, bound together by a shared code and a common purpose. This was a key factor in their success, and it's something that we can learn from. In our own lives, this means building strong relationships with others and being willing to work together towards a common goal. Finally, let's not forget the importance of flexibility and adaptability. Pirates were known for their ability to adapt to changing circumstances, to pivot and adjust when necessary. This was a product of their code, which emphasized the importance of being flexible and responsive. In our own lives, this means being open to new ideas and perspectives, and being willing to adjust our plans when circumstances change. As we move forward in our exploration of piracy, we'll be delving deeper into the lives of individual pirates and the experiences that shaped their world. We'll explore the highs and lows of pirate life, from the thrill of victory to the agony of defeat. And we'll examine the legacy of piracy and how it continues to shape our world today. But for now, let's take a moment to reflect on the pirate code and what it can teach us about discipline, loyalty, and survival. What do you think is the most important aspect of the pirate code? How can we apply its principles to our own lives? Let us know in the comments below. Sources: Asterisk, A General History of the Pirates, by Captain Charles Johnson, 1724. Asterisk, The Pirate Hunter, The True Story of Captain Kidd, by Richard Zacks, 2002. Asterisk, Bartholomew Roberts, The Most Successful Pirate in History, by Angus Constam, 2008. Stay tuned for our next section, where we'll be exploring the harsh realities of life on a pirate ship. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more immersive historical storytelling, and hit the notification bell to stay up to date on our latest videos. The squalid reality of pirate life. You won't survive this. As we continue our journey into the grimy underbelly of piracy, you're probably wondering what it's like to be a pirate. Is it all about treasure, adventure, and a life of freedom on the high seas? The truth is far from it. In this section, we'll delve into the harsh reality of daily life on a pirate ship, where the chances of survival are slim and the living conditions are deplorable. Imagine waking up every morning in a cramped, damp hammock, shared with dozens of other men who are just as desperate and dirty as you are. The air is thick with the stench of sweat, mold, and the occasional hint of rotting flesh. You'll be lucky if you get a few hours of sleep each night, as the sounds of groaning timbers, creaking ropes, and the cries of the ship's fowl will keep you awake. As we discussed earlier, pirates didn't just board ships and steal their cargo. They'd often take the sailors and marines as well, forcing them to join their crew. This was known as press ganging, and it was a brutal practice that left many men with no choice but to abandon their lives on land. If you were lucky, you might be given a task like swabbing the decks or hauling up the anchor. However, more often than not, you'd be stuck in the galley, cooking meals that were little more than a mixture of stale bread, rotten vegetables, and whatever scraps the ship's officers deemed fit for consumption. The food on a pirate ship was a far cry from the romanticized notion of hearty stews and sea biscuits. In reality, it was a never-ending cycle of starvation, malnutrition, and the occasional bout of food poisoning. The water was often contaminated, and the meat was usually spoiled or rotten. It's no wonder that many pirates suffered from scurvy, a disease caused by a lack of vitamin C in their diet. In some cases, the only meat they'd get was what they could catch themselves, and that would often be a rat or a seabird. As we explore the squalid reality of pirate life, it's essential to remember that this was a world without modern medicine. When a pirate got hurt or fell ill, the only treatment they'd receive was from a ship's surgeon, a man who was often more likely to kill you than cure you. In fact, many pirate surgeons were little more than butchers, with a reputation for performing gruesome surgery with no anesthesia. One pirate surgeon who comes to mind is a man named Gristle, who worked on the crew of the infamous pirate ship, the Revenge. Gristle was notorious for his brutal methods, and his reputation for performing amputations without anesthesia was well known throughout the pirate community. In fact, one eyewitness account describes Gristle as a man who would rather cut off a man's leg than give him a second chance at life. As we continue our journey into the world of piracy, keep in mind that life on a pirate ship was a constant battle for survival. With no access to clean water, decent food, or modern medicine, it's a miracle that any pirate managed to make it through the day without succumbing to illness or injury. And yet, despite the harsh conditions, many pirates thrived in this environment, at least for a while. In the next section, we'll delve into the Pirate Code, a set of rules that governed life on a pirate ship. We'll explore what happened when you broke the code and how this affected the social dynamics of the crew. But for now, let's take a moment to reflect on the harsh reality of pirate life, a reality that's far removed from the romanticized notion of swashbuckling adventure we see in the movies. If you're enjoying this immersive historical storytelling experience, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. And if you have a favorite historical era or event you'd like to see us explore, drop it in the comments below. We love hearing from our viewers and are always looking for new ideas to explore. Section 20, The Dark Side of the Golden Age. As we delve into the heart of piracy's golden age, it's essential to understand that the romanticized notion of swashbuckling adventure is little more than a myth. The reality was far more brutal, with pirates living in a constant state of fear, violence, and desperation. Pirates often targeted merchant ships, and the process of boarding and plundering was a chaotic and deadly affair. The crew would storm the ship, swords drawn, and the passengers would be rounded up and forced to surrender their valuables. Those who resisted were dealt with swiftly and mercilessly. The pirates would then set about dividing the spoils, with the captain taking the lion's share for himself. But what about those who were forced into pirate service? The ones who were press-ganged or kidnapped from their homes. Their fate was all but sealed. They would be treated as nothing more than property, forced to work against their will and risk being brutally punished if they failed to meet expectations. The daily life of a pirate was a nightmare. The air was thick with the stench of sweat, blood, and rotting food. Hammocks were shared among the crew, with little to no regard for hygiene or personal space. Meals were often meager and infrequent, with rats and maggots a common ingredient. The conditions were so dire that many pirates resorted to eating their own shoes or leather belts just to survive. The medical care on pirate ships was laughable, with treatments often bordering on medieval cruelty. The infamous pirate surgeon, Gristle, would perform amputations without anesthesia, using nothing more than a rusty saw and a strong stomach. Toothaches were treated by having the offending tooth pulled out with a pair of pliers, and the victim would often be left to bleed out on the deck. The pirate code was a set of rules that governed the behavior of pirates and outlined the punishments for those who broke them. It was a brutal and unforgiving system, with punishments ranging from flogging to marooning on a deserted island. Those who were caught engaging in mutiny, theft, or other forms of disobedience were often thrown overboard or keel-hauled, a gruesome punishment that involved being dragged under the ship's hull. As we navigate the treacherous waters of pirate life, it's essential to remember that survival was a daily struggle. The crew was always on edge, waiting for the next storm or the arrival of a rival ship. Hallucinations and madness were common among pirates, who would often turn to drink or other vices to cope with the stress and isolation. And then, of course, there were the monsters from the deep. Whales, sharks, and other sea creatures were a constant threat to pirate ships, which often sailed in treacherous waters with little regard for safety. The crew would often tell stories of sea monsters and other supernatural creatures, which would serve as a reminder of the dangers that lurked beneath the surface. As we conclude our journey into the world of piracy, it's clear that the romanticized notion of swashbuckling adventure is a myth. The reality was far more grim and brutal, with pirates living in a constant state of fear and desperation. But it's also clear that the golden age of piracy was a complex and multifaceted phenomenon, with pirates operating in a world that was both familiar and foreign. So the next time you hear someone romanticizing the life of a pirate, remember the harsh realities of pirate life. Remember the brutal punishments, the meager rations, and the constant fear of violence and death. And perhaps, just perhaps, you'll see piracy in a different light, as a complex and multifaceted phenomenon that was far more than just a swashbuckling adventure.